Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanantari Yamuna Tira Vanantari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanantari Jamuna Tira Vanantari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Rati Hari Radha Rati Hari Radha. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Nishupad Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgacharya Stotra Satta Sri Samadhi Divine Grace Sri Boy Charandarakana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Iskcon Juhu Founder Charya Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantaraj Bhagavatam Ki Daini Thai Gaura Kinande all gladies to the assembled devotees, all gladies to the assembled devotees, all gladies to the assembled devotees, all gladies to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all gladies to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Om Ajnanatirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Tatsurundilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalitam Sri Vishakam Vitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakam Sanagaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Hare Priye Vansakalpatarubhyasya Vipasindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Praya Shabadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naisiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within our heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Ramasamitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhamyam Swasyayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantha, as the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. Of all people, it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. There's a second short mantra. You have to listen carefully. It's very short, but if you don't listen carefully, you'll miss it. Kindly repeat. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasanam pangum langayate girim yakripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataram yakripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataram. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to the morning Bhagavatam class, and today we are reading from the 10th canto. Chapter 83, entitled Draupadi Meets the Queens of Krishna. Which text is on the board?
17.
Huh?
17.
17, right? Okay. 1-7. Sri Lakshmanuvacha Mamapi Rajni Achyuta Janma Karma Srutva Muhur Narada Vitam Asa Ha Chitam Mukunde Kila Padma Hastaya Vrittaha Su Samrishya Vihaya Loka Tam Sri Lakshmanuvacha Mama Pirajnya Chuta Janma Karma Srutva Muhura Narada Gitam Masaha Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya.
Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya.
Vita susam vishya vihaya lokapan.
Vita susam vishya vihaya lokapan.
Sri Lakshmana vacha.
Sri Lakshmana vacha.
Mama pirajna chuta janma karma.
Mama pirajna chuta janma karma.
Shrutva muhura narada gitamasaha.
Shrutva muhura narada gitamasaha.
Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya.
Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya.
Vita susamrishya vihaya lokapan.
Vita susamrishya vihaya lokapan.
Sri Lakshmana vacha.
Sri Lakshmana vacha.
Mama pirajna chuta janma karma.
Mama pirajna chuta janma karma.
Shrutva muhura narada gitamasaha.
Shrutva muhura narada gitamasaha.
Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya.
Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya.
Vita susamrishya vihaya lokapan.
Vita susamrishya vihaya lokapan. Sri Lakshmana vacha. Sri Lakshmana vacha. Mama pirajna chuta janma karma. Mama pirajna chuta janma karma. Shrutva muhura narada gitamasaha. Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya. Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya. Vita susamrishya vihaya lokapan. Vita susamrishya vihaya lokapan. Sri Lakshmana vacha. Sri Lakshmana vacha. Mama pirajna chuta janma karma. Shrutva muhura narada gitamasaha. Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya. Vita susamrishya vihaya lokapan.
Ladies, Mataji's.
Sri Lakshmana vacha. Mama pirajna chuta janma karma. Shrutva muhura narada gitamasaha. Chittam mukunde kila padma hastaya. Vita susamrishya vihaya lokapan.
Sri Lakshmana uvacha.
Sri Lakshmana vacha.
Sri Lakshmana said,
Sri Lakshmana said,
Mama, my, Api, also, Rajni, O Queen, Achyuta, of Lord Krishna, Janma, about the births, Karma, and activities, Shrutava, hearing, Muhuhu, repeatedly, Narada, by Narada Muni, Gitam, chanted, Asaha, became, Chittam, my heart, Mukunde, fixed upon Mukunda, Kila, indeed, Padmahastaya, by the Supreme Goddess of Fortune, who holds a lotus in her hand, Vrittaha, chosen, Su, carefully, Samrishya, considering, Vihaya, rejecting, Loka, of planets, on the rulers. Translation with no purport by the followers of Srila Prabhupada. Sri Lakshmana said, "O Queen, I repeatedly heard Narada Muni glorify the appearances and activities of Achyuta, and thus my heart also became attached to that Lord, Mukunda. Indeed, even Goddess Padmahasta chose him as her husband after careful consideration, rejecting the great demigods who rule various planets." Kindly repeat after me. Sri Lakshmana said, "O Queen, I repeatedly heard Narada Muni glorify the appearances and activities of Achyuta. And thus my heart also became attached to that Lord, Mukunda. Indeed, even Goddess Padmahasta chose him as her husband after careful consideration, rejecting the great demigods who rule various planets." So we are also reading text 18 and 19, which has a short purport. I will just read 18 translation, or I'll read the text and the translation. Gyatva mamamatam sadvi pita duriti vatsalaha brihatsena iti kyatas tatropayam achikarat. Translation. My father, Brihatsena, was by nature compassionate to his daughter, and knowing how I felt, O saintly lady, he arranged to fulfill my desire. Text 19. Yatha swayam vare rajni vatsya palte swaya kritaha ayam tu bahir aschanno drishyate jale param. Translation and purport. Just as a fish was used as a target in your Swayamvara ceremony, O Queen, to assure that you would obtain Arjuna as your husband, so a fish was also used in my ceremony. In my case, however, it was concealed on all sides, and only its reflection could be seen in a pot of water below. Purport. Arjuna is famous as a most expert bowman. Why then could he not hit the fish target at Srimati Lakshmana's Swayamvara ceremony, just as he had done once before to win Draupadi? Srila Sridhar Swami explains, the target at Draupadi's Swayamvara had been covered only partially, so that a marksman could see it if he looked straight up the pillar on which it was placed. To shoot Lakshmana's target, however, it was necessary to aim by looking up and down at the same time, an impossible feat for any mortal. Therefore, only Krishna could strike the target. So just to situate ourselves in the context of this portion of the Bhagavatam. This is when there was Krishna is performing his pastimes in Dwarka, and at some particular time, due to a solar eclipse, he comes to Kurukshetra, and also the residents of Vrindavan who come to know that Krishna is going to be in Kurukshetra, they also come. And so many different personalities are there. And this particular section or chapter is describing Queen Draupadi, who is anxious to hear from the various queens of Lord Krishna in Dwarka. So the first verse we read, this particular queen, which is who is speaking, is Lakshmana, and she is especially describing how, actually Draupadi wanted to know how they got married to Krishna. Here we're dealing with the subject matter of Kshatriyas. There are different ways that are mentioned in the Vedic literatures how Kshatriyas would win the hand of their queens. In the case of Lakshmana, she had heard about the glories of the Lord, and in this way she developed an attraction and attachment, and eventually Krishna fulfilled her desires. So this this is an important, basic and essential aspect in Krishna consciousness, how to actually gain or win the attention of the Lord. One of the foremost ways, which is being mentioned here, is by constant and continued, Prabhupada uses the word or the term, oral reception, isn't it? Srinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Ridyantastoya Badrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Because the living entities in the material world have been for so many lifetimes not hearing about Mukunda, not hearing about Krishna, but rather have been engaged in all kinds of activities and pursuits on the material platform. Therefore, living entity has lost its natural, we could say, taste for such higher subject matters. And therefore, to revive that original attraction, because by nature, Prabhupada explains how every living entity has this natural attraction, this natural inclination. We are not by nature inactive. If we are not active in terms of Krishna consciousness, if we are not attracted to Krishna and things that are related to Krishna, by nature we will be forced to be attracted to other things. Means we will be attracted to material activities, material personalities, etc. So therefore, one of the foremost principles, we could say in many ways the beginning principle in spiritual life, is to hear, to develop, another word that Prabhupada would use, the affinity for hearing. Means developing a taste which will eventually, a higher taste, which will eventually lead us away or take us away from what is called the lower taste. Param drisva nivartate, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. So whole Vedic culture, the various pastimes that are described about so many great personalities, and of course the foremost of all the great personalities, Lord Krishna, we are meant to develop some kind of attraction and taste to hear about these subject matters. That natural taste will not come unless our consciousness becomes purified. And of course, consciousness will become purified based on our association. Srila Prabhupada established, especially in the very beginning of our movement, 3 prominent temples. Juhu is one of them. It's very nice to come after quite some years to see how the temple devotees and those who are visiting Juhu is maintaining a very vibrant atmosphere. Not only we need to create and experience such vibrant atmosphere in our temples, but we need to create that. Temples are meant to help us create that actually in our individual mind or consciousness. Because our primary business and responsibility, once we have been introduced to Krishna consciousness, once we develop some little taste, some little appreciation, some little understanding of what we call Krishna consciousness, then when we understand that the vast majority of people in the world are actually devoid of this understanding, are not, especially in the Western world, Western countries, the vast majority of people don't even know about Krishna. And also here in India, of course, over the last so many years, by Prabhupada's mercy, by the mercy of so many of his followers, more and more people are coming to know Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. Unless one comes to experience and understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot bring an end or put an end to one's miserable condition in the material world. So the whole Vedic culture actually is preparing us, by bringing us gradually, at least in the mode of goodness, so that we can, in a more purified consciousness, begin to appreciate the various leelas or pastimes of Krishna. And as Krishna also confirms in the Bhagavad Gita, by knowing and understanding the transcendental nature of the Lord's pastimes, Janma Karma Samiddhivyam evam joveti tatvataha tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mameti sarjuna. We have this great responsibility, we could call it mandate, given to us by our founder Acharya, to introduce very widely all over the world this culture we call Vedic culture, which is meant to purify the lives of individuals, which is meant to bring them ultimately to become fully absorbed in activities of devotional service, which is not possible unless we break away from the modes of material nature. That is the stumbling block, actually, for all the conditioned souls in the material world. So in addition to the temples, like Juhu is one of the, we could say, prime examples of, especially because Srila Prabhupada himself was physically present and conceived the construction of this temple. We have similar temples not only in India but in so many countries. But in addition to our temples, what we are experiencing, what we are meant to experience in our temples, we are meant to actually introduce and carry that outside of our temples. We are meant to actually live and demonstrate the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, which is described in the pages of the Bhagavatam especially, for the purpose of actually bringing not only transformation within the heart, beginning with our own hearts. By purified consciousness, we will experience that transformation, but we are meant to bring that transformation in the lives of as many people as possible, actually, in the world. So the subject matters we are hearing, the topics we are reading in the Bhagavatam, the lifestyle that is advocated, lifestyle which is especially demonstrated in the village of Vrindavan. This is one of the important instructions, one of the important objectives of the Krishna consciousness movement. Some years back, someone was mentioning that I didn't know that Hare Krishna people were also interested in villages or in cows, because mostly people identify us with very wonderful temples, big temples, with different preaching activities like book distribution and Harinam Sankirtan, which is of course one of the main activities in our major temples. At the same time, there's a whole other dimension that we tend to forget, and I suppose I end up eventually speaking on this topic because it's an area that was very much spoken about and desired by our founder Acharya, means outside of our big cities, outside of our big temples, or beyond our big temples, we need to introduce the essence of Krishna consciousness in such a way that people wherever they are, and we could say where especially they should be. If we read and understand the message of the Bhagavatam and if we understand the mission of our acharyas, especially our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, he wanted that we live this philosophy of Krishna consciousness as it is especially meant to be lived for the vast majority of people, which means actually beyond our temples. Our temples are meant to be sources where we become inspired, where we become trained also for practicing Krishna consciousness. But the vast majority of our devotees will not be living in our temples. As we know, they will live outside. And where they are meant to live, that also is indicated actually in the pages of the Bhagavatam. It is explained by our acharyas also. Majority of our devotees are meant to live very much in line with the lifestyle that our residents of Vrindavan 5,000 years ago, but not only 5,000 years ago, India especially is that place where still today it's going down of course, but there are over 600,000 villages in India. But to a large extent, these villages are neglected. Of course, in the last few years, especially, our Bhima Prabhu here in Mumbai, through the Bhadra campaign, some of you may know, has encouraged and facilitated that sets of Srimad Bhagavatam be introduced in more and more villages in India. Because without this knowledge, these instructions from the Bhagavatam, from Bhagavad Gita, people in the villages especially, who are in many ways, we could say, neglected or abandoned. Therefore, devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement, as desired by our founder Acharya, wanted that we reintroduce what is meant to be the original culture of India, the original culture that we know as Sanatana Dharma, where people can learn and come to understand that actually that is meant to be the norm and the standard life for the vast majority of people. Actually, recently, when I was leaving Mayapur to start a short tour that I'm on right now, I met one temple president from one of our large temples who was just sharing with me. We kind of met at the airport. Nowadays we meet devotees in so many places. And he was mentioning how we have a number of big temples, not only here in India, but in other countries. But the tendency, it's not always the case, but the tendency is to be kind of like comfort, feeling some kind of comfort in being situated and doing our localized preaching in the cities, which is of course necessary. But cities, devotees in cities, our different leaders in cities also have a very important responsibility to bring this message, not only to bring the message, but actually part of that message is to show and to demonstrate and facilitate this living style, which is actually the essence in many ways of Vedic culture. Essence in the sense that Vedic culture is an agrarian culture. And I'm sure many of our devotees in our big temples many of them come from villages. So Prabhupada wanted that actually we help revive and protect this basic foundation, we could say foundational lifestyle, which can only be found largely, of course, we are practicing Krishna consciousness everywhere, but in terms of fulfilling and facilitating a more simple and natural way of living, based naturally on Krishna consciousness, villages have a special role and position within the Vedic culture. Different than, this is not so much understood or emphasized, I would say, in other teachings, let's say outside of the Vedic culture. But in the Vedic culture, it's a very foundational concept and principle to actually demonstrate practically our philosophy. That is, there are two levels, isn't it, of knowledge that we find explained both in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Jnanam and Vijnanam. So Jnanam is simply, largely, tends to be theoretical knowledge. But we need to go beyond simply Jnanam to show and demonstrate our factual understanding by coming to the level of Vijnanam. And of course, that Vijnanam needs to be experienced, needs to be lived on two main levels. One is on the spiritual level, where we actually, by Krishna's mercy, when we are fixed, at least in the mode of goodness, by being fixed in the mode of goodness, we can nicely engage in devotional service. By nicely engaging in devotional service, we attract Krishna's attention, we attract Krishna's mercy, who reveals himself to us, who helps us to understand different subject matters, not only of a spiritual nature, but also of a material nature. So, Vijnanam is meant to be experienced not only on the spiritual platform, but also in terms of materially. We are here in the material world. Krishna has created, has established a system, a way of living, a lifestyle, which he has demonstrated in the small village of Vrindavan. And it's not, the village of Vrindavan is not only meant to be a source of inspiration for us, to bring us to the most confidential pastimes of the Rasa Lila, that is there, but also the daily activities of the residents of Vrindavan, in particular of Krishna and Balaram. There is hidden meaning, there is hidden instruction in terms of how we should be living, again, bringing us to a more simplified lifestyle, which facilitates actually our understanding and realization of Krishna consciousness. And of course, that's directly connected with the whole concept of Varnashrama Dharma. Here we're talking about, queens and kings, monarchy. That's a whole subject matter that we read about a little bit, but we have less, in general, less understanding of how that is in the Vedic culture and in the Vedic times. That is actually part of the standard way of living. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he wanted that not only we advance and understand and realize spiritual subject matters. Bhagavatam is teaching us naturally spiritual subject matters, the highest level of spiritual subject matters, which culminates in Bhakti Yoga. But also the Bhagavatam, and we kind of tend to forget, is also teaching us very important values and providing us with essential information in terms of how we should be living materially, which in general in modern day society we struggle with because we are removed to a very large extent, and probably most of us are not realizing it very much, but we are very far removed from the norm, what is called the Vedic norm. Norm means what is meant to be natural, what is meant to be standard. And as a matter of fact, when Yudhishthira Maharaj begins to hear the instructions from Grandfather Bhishmadev, I was reading, we were studying that some time back, that's in the first canto, I believe chapter 9, Grandfather Bhishmadev leaving his body. So we know the whole situation whereby for so many days Grandfather Bhishmadev is on his bed of arrows, and it is, although so many great personalities are there, like Narada Muni, Srila Vyasadeva, even Krishna is present, but it is Grandfather Bhishmadev who is chosen to actually bring comfort and solace to Yudhishthira Maharaj, who's feeling very bad after the battle of Kurukshetra. So the very first instruction given by Grandfather Bhishmadev to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Prabhupada makes a very important point in the very first line of that purport. Grandfather Bhishmadev begins his instruction by explaining to Yudhishthira Maharaj that actually, because he's going to assume now the responsibility of the kingdom, he's becoming the emperor of the whole world actually, Yudhishthira Maharaj. So Grandfather Bhishmadev begins by telling him that the Lord has created this system of social and spiritual divisions in society. It means varnashrama. And in the very first line, of course, Grandfather Bhishmadev continues to give so many instructions, but in the very first line of that first instruction given by Bhishmadev, Prabhupada makes the following, what I consider very profound and very meaningful, instructive statement, that this instruction given by Grandfather Bhishmadev in terms of the importance of creating this system of Varna and Ashrama is primarily meant to accelerate the development of spiritual qualities. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but basically Prabhupada is mentioning that, which he explains in many other places as well, in order for us to more easily, to more naturally, to more quickly advance in Krishna consciousness. Our goal is to become self-realized, to develop our love for Krishna, to become disconnected with the modes of material nature, etc. So in order to facilitate, to accelerate, Prabhupada uses the word to accelerate this process. And it's important, especially in Kali Yuga, because our life is very short. So we want to accelerate the process by which we can become self-realized, by which we can become more quickly purified, by which we can more quickly become disconnected with these modes of material nature, because that's what is hampering our ability to actually fully engage in devotional service. Therefore, this system this material system. Just like in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam also, when Narada Muni begins his explanation, and of course, again, to Yudhishthira Maharaj, right? Chapter 11, the perfect society. Our aim actually is for perfection. Krishna is that perfect personality, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna has given us a perfect system, a perfect spiritual system and a perfect material system. We should try to understand. There are two systems at play. We are all sitting here because we are made up of two energies, the body, material energy, and the spirit soul within. And we need to address both. So Krishna has provided, has given us in the pages of the Bhagavatam especially, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that perfect system, both on the spiritual and material dimension. And Prabhupada explains how, unless we understand both of these systems, and the amazing thing he explains is that to understand, to help us understand more easily the spiritual system, perfect system, which means, which culminates in Krishna consciousness, it is very helpful to follow and understand the material system of Krishna, which is Varnashrama, which is, again, understanding the Vedic sciences that actually make up Vedic culture. Kshatriyahood, this whole Leela, which is being described here, is connected with this very elevated consciousness that individuals have when they agree to follow and receive the training and education that is given in the pages of the Bhagavatam and through so many other literatures as well. So this is something that Srila Prabhupada wanted. Maybe I'll just close on this point. This clock is not working well, right? Srila Prabhupada wanted us, of course, to establish these wonderful temples in our cities, but for two purposes. One purpose is to train individuals who will be fully dedicated for preaching the mission in our cities, for bringing Krishna consciousness to our immediate congregation and beyond. Simultaneously, Srila Prabhupada wanted that we train individuals who will go beyond our cities, beyond our immediate congregation in the cities, and bring attention, focus on what is meant to be the foundational basis of the Vedic culture, which is actually in the villages, in the country. Because Vedic culture, which is, of course, a whole big topic in itself, and again, underlined or stressed by Grandfather Vishnudev in Mahabharata, is based on what is called the three gifts of nature. The three gifts of nature are especially found in villages. Why? Because one of them, the first of those three gifts of nature are cows. The second is land, agriculture, and the third is cultivation of knowledge. So the complete, we could say, cultivation of Krishna consciousness will come, especially, will be realized, will be experienced, especially when we are connected with these three gifts of nature that in our Vedic culture, in our Vedic understanding, are essential for actually promoting and establishing this culture, both at the material and spiritual level. So that is very much part of our objective, very much part of our mission, to understand and to balance these two levels, spiritual level, which is bhakti, devotional service, and the other level, which is material, which is especially hidden in topmost of all villages, of course, which is Vrindavan village. So when whatever section of the Bhagavatam we read, we should try to make that connection and to see, to try and understand how well are we balancing these two levels of reality. We have a spiritual reality, spiritual dimension, and we also have material, excuse me, a material dimension of life. That was 9 o'clock, and of course the message mentions here till 9:10, so we have 10 minutes for any possible questions or comments. Hare Krishna. Yes?
I have a question.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the mic is coming so that more people can hear you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Nice to see you.
Thank you very much. Since I'm also involved in farming, I always feel an attachment to you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Now, my question is not about farming, but about cities.
About city.
So, we have this Varnashma also for the temples. You have the managers of the temples. The presidents, right?
Yes.
Now, the problem in managing is that you tend to, your Rajoguna comes up, you get attached, right, to the property, to management, then pushes and pulls from people around you, and that tends to bring down your Brahmanical nature. We are trained to be Brahmanas in Iskcon, to be Vaishnavas, so that you are not attached. So, how do we deal with that?
How to deal? Well, first of all, not all Vaishnavas are meant to be Brahmanas. The proper understanding is that automatically, by nature, as Prabhupada explains, Vaishnava means one who automatically has the qualities of Brahmana. But not every Vaishnava is meant to act out the role of a Brahmana. Vaishnavas are meant to take up and act out, Prabhupada gives a nice example, as like in a drama. In a drama we take on the role of a king or whatever, but we know we're not really, we're the king while we're on, while the play is going on. So the whole material existence and experience is that we need to first and foremost understand ourselves as eternal servants of Krishna and develop, that is Vaishnava, gradually develops that understanding. But until and unless we come to that complete topmost position, here's a very strong, important quote from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who says that the system of Varnashrama is for the Vaishnavas in their conditioned state. So Vaishnavas in their conditioned state will take on sometimes manager role. If they are properly strong in Krishna consciousness, they will not allow themselves to become bewildered. They will understand how to play that role, but that requires some training. Or other Vaishnavas will take on the role of Brahmana. Other Vaishnavas will take on the role of Vaishya. Nanda Maharaj, all the residents of Vrindavan, they are Vaishyas. Krishna himself takes on the role of a Vaishya. Vaishnavas will also take on the role of Shudra. This needs to be understood properly. Shudra means servant, ideal servant, best servant. Actually, Vaishnava, essence of Vaishnavism is seva, service, isn't it? So within that framework of Varnashrama, then Shudra, there are 9 qualities described by Narad Muni. It is not so easy to be a good Shudra. Here in India, especially, the word Shudra has become very negative. I mean the word Varnashram for that matter. One of our main challenges within our Iskcon society is to actually understand and make others understand the glories of Varnashrama. When we hear our acharyas state that Prabhupada himself, if one is not part of the Varnashrama system, one is not considered civilized. One is not considered a human being, isn't it? Narada Muni speaks about the 30 qualities to develop as a human being. So in many ways, that's where it begins, and that's why Grandfather Bhishmadev speaks about the importance of becoming situated in the mode of goodness. The whole Vedic culture, the whole system of Varnashrama is meant to gradually bring us to that mode of goodness. It's a very big topic, obviously. It remains 50% of Prabhupada's unfulfilled mission. And therefore, at least some people need to focus on it, and more devotees actually need to be aware. And there's one book, just happens to be on my here, which speaking about Varnashrama is a very important book that just recently has become available digitally. You can download it. Somebody just sent it to me just recently. It's available online. It's free as well. Yeah, very important book to understand so many aspects in connection with, for example, the question you're asking. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Any other? Yes. Mike can go there. Quick.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. We appreciate Maharaj your contribution in this area of Varnashrama. We see Maharaj now villages are ignored and many villages and villagers are taking up, giving up Vedic culture.
Yes.
And accepting other culture. So how you see how the transformation or change will come? It's from the top, when the leader of the country will accept Varnashrama as a priority and as a progress, or within our society we will go ahead with bit by bit contributing, going to villages and doing it. How you foresee Maharaj?
Good question. It has to come from both sides, from top to bottom and from bottom to the top, and that's part of our responsibility. I mean, Prabhupada, in many ways, simple answer is that if we could only try to remember this very basic, fundamental instruction given to us by Srila Prabhupada over 50 years ago, that immediately in all of our temples we have to establish a Varnashram college. We have to educate ourselves. We have to educate our devotees. We have to become ourselves trained and educated. Then we will be more effective in approaching either the topmost politicians in the country who are in leadership position and who could actually do so many things to help bring about the needed changes. And also we need to go directly to the villages, to the common people, to help them on that level. So both aspects are needed. We need to inspire some of our devotees to actually become political leaders in the world as well. You see, many years ago Prabhupada started a political party, supported a political party, In God We Trust, in America, which went on for some time. So, in whatever way, education is the key actually. We need to educate ourselves, and it begins in many ways from our large temples, our big temples, where we have all kinds of different facilities and making so many devotees. This book, in the introduction, explains this aspect of how we should train our devotees in our city temples. Some of them meant to be remaining focused in city preaching, and others actually focused in terms of reviving, helping to revive the the Vedic model, which is, again, basically agrarian or village. Vedic culture is a village culture. Vedic culture is a cow culture. If we miss out on village culture, cow culture, we're going to miss out on Krishna, ultimately, because Krishna is intimately connected with cows, village life, etc. We have to close for now. Thank you all very much. Jai Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki, Jai Sri Prabhupada ki, Jai Krishna.